Chapter 2. Something Greater. Toticahatchee, Florida, September 9th, 1998. The once vibrant city of Toticahatchee has become a hollowed-out ruin. Like the skeletal remains of a giant behemoth, the buildings are broken and empty. Walls stand like lone ribs with all of the guts removed. The ground is littered with craters and debris. Ash covers all surfaces like snow. Nothing is left alive in the ghost city. Anyone that managed to survive the battle no longer have a home to return to. The temperature within the city ruins is several degrees colder than any of the surrounding areas. Cleanup crews have spent the past 3 days trying to find survivors, but all they've managed to do is excavate the dead. A man in a dark cloak, pulled close to his body, walks through the streets, drawn to the despair and malice burned into the very fabric of the city's reality. Rifts in the dimensional walls between the mortal realm and the astral wastes have been created through the intense battle between the Sakari siblings. With so much death and destruction, evil is magnetized to the city. Gideon Levi bends down and pulls a skull out of the ashy ground cover. The man blows more ash off the skull and turns it over in his hands, inspecting the find. Souvenir des morts. The skull begins to cough, tiny embers of flame sparkling within the hollows of its eyes. Those devils are destroying the city! I have to get home! Your home is gone now, Levi whispers. You're dead. That can't be. The skull is unable to look around. Why can't I move my head? You're nothing but a head. Levi is frustrated. You must have died early on. I'd hoped you could give me answers, but I seem to know more about your death than you do. The necromancer ends his spell and tosses the skull aside. A terrible howl echoes nearby, and Levi turns, just barely catching sight of a pair of shadows slipping into the ruins of an apartment building. Revenants. Spirits like small imps float around the city by the hundreds, drawn in by the malice of the dead burned into the city's memory. One of the creatures notices Levi, sneering at the man. You aren't welcome, stranger! It's a spirit called a Naraksu. They are drawn to sites of mass graves feeding on the life energy that lingers after death. You're one to talk, imp. We're both here to pick the bones of the dead. We were created this way! What's your excuse? Don't act so familiar with me. I'm not some accidental visitor. I know methods of ensnaring you and binding you to my will. The Araxo seems disturbed. Carry on then. A revenant with the body of a quadruped, like some kind of deer with claws, and a head consisting of a giant exposed brain, and insect-like mandibles, and thousands of eyes, attempts to sneak up on Levi, drawn to his life force. Being the only living creature in the city, Levi is like a beacon to all the undead spirits leaking into the city through its wounds. Levi turns, throwing a hand out towards the revenant's face. Renvoyer les morts. The revenant howls in pain as its form breaks apart into a black mist. Levi breathes in the mist, his eyes flashing red for a moment. Levi continues searching the ruins for human corpses. Each of the remains are interrogated as the man tries to learn more about what happened to the city. The hatred for Jake and Inyana is so burned into Toticahatchee that the malice itself begins to coalesce into physical form. A pool of boiling black emotion seeps from the cracked city streets. As Levi approaches, tendrils of the malice stretch out to keep track of his movements. Near the site of the final battle, and where most of the deaths occurred, Levi finds the pool of condensed hatred trying to form into a physical body. Ah, good fortune, Levi whispers. An Onryu is an excellent find. Evil emotion scarring the city flows over the nearest intact corpse, seeping into its orifices. Awkwardly, the corpse rises to its feet. Black liquid drips from the creature's eyes, ears, nostrils, and mouth. L'air, l'esprit, convoquer la prison de Carqueo. A phantom coffin rises from the ground and opens, sending chains out to wrap around the Onryo and bind it. The spirit struggles against the magic, but is slowly pulled into the coffin. Once inside, the coffin slams shut and disappears. More malice begins to spill out onto the streets, but Levi is satisfied with just one Onryo-possessed corpse into his collection. His fear that if the vengeful spirit's emotions are too strong, he will be unable to keep multiple Onryo bound to his will. When a single person or just a handful die, the amount of negative emotion is rarely enough to take physical form. Only at sites of mass murder and genocide can an Onryo birth. Levi had hoped to find that Totikahachi would be such a cursed place. As a necromancer, he is fascinated by the dead. When he saw in the news the devastation caused by Yamura and Yana's battle, he knew he had to come to the city and explore it in person. Adding powerful, vengeful spirits to his collection is Levi's favorite pastime. 2 reanimated corpses rise from the rubble, fueled by hatred. I seem to have overstayed my welcome here, Levi mutters. Sakari, one of the Onryu hisses. Inyana, Yamura. Take Stuart, the other Onryu growls. Are these the names of your murderers? Levi asks. The Onryu have no ability to care for the living. Though their drive is to seek out and kill those who created them, all life is at risk in their presence. Renvoyer les morts, Levi says, holding out a hand and casting his spell to banish their spirits from the mortal world. The Onryu twitch, briefly weakening, but are not exorcised. Levi is surprised at the strength of the emotion burned into the city. Only at sites of great massacres and wars has he ever found an equally powerful Onryu. I guess I have no other choice. I can't just leave you here, he whispers. L'air, l'esprit, convoquer la prison de Carqueo, deux Carqueos. 2 phantom coffins appear and using their chains bind and consume the 2 reanimated corpses. Levi kneels, placing both hands on the street and closes his eyes. He draws all of the malice and hatred to the surface until it swirls in a single orb above the ground. Levi stands, drawing the negative emotion towards him. Recipient, espiritus. He conjures a black jar in the shape of a horned skull and removes the cork, drawing the malice inside. Levi replaces the cork and seals it with a magical sigil, written with his own blood. The ground trembles as the malice continues to flow, unchecked. The hatred is greater in this location than Levi has ever before seen. Such a powerful grudge, Levi whispers. Even I will not be able to prevent this site from becoming cursed. The city now belongs to the spirits of the dead. Nothing shall ever again live here. Several of the Iratsu imps land on the rubble near the Black Mage. What exactly are you looking for? The imp he spoke with earlier asks. Now you are curious? I saw how you handled yourself against the undead. I can tell you aren't a normal human. I find you interesting. You already knew I was a necromancer the second I entered this city. I did. But just being able to revive a corpse into a ghoul or a zombie isn't that impressive. Now a human that can tame pure malice? That is someone to pay attention to. My goals are not grand. I am sorry to say that I would disappoint you if you continued to follow me. I am merely a collector. Not very interesting. The ground rumbles again, this time louder. Sounds like it's coming closer. The Iratsu giggles. What is coming? What have you seen? Is it another revenant? The Araksu laughs, flying up and out of reach.
I'm sure it was a long time ago. Good luck. I'll be watching to see what happens next.
Levi turns around, seeing the ground piling up as if something were digging beneath the earth and rapidly approaching. The mage erects a protective barrier around himself just as a mass of intertwined arms and teeth explodes from the ground and attempts to grab him. The barrier spell repels the creature, and Levi is able to see the grotesque monstrosity clearly for the first time. Dozens of corpses have become entangled like a macabre undead rat king. Pale faces full of yellow teeth and clawed hands reaching out at impossible angles. With no feet visible, the creature moves by using hands to claw at the ground. As seen earlier, it can move equally swift underground. Levi actually finds that his hands are shaking as he stares at his barrier, feeling it weakening. It's so strong, a powerful dark spirit. So many unburied corpses left to rot forgotten, their hatred and malice seeping into the earth and infecting it. This entire city has become a canker, a festering sore of misery and hate. The undead creature is unable to speak, only desiring to kill the living. It again attacks Levi, sending hairline fractures throughout his barrier spell. I cannot play defense and hope to survive this creature's onslaught. Unlike a revenant, a Gasha Dakuru is nearly indestructible. I'm not sure that I have the stamina needed to banish such a creature from this world. My only hope is to contain it somehow, but I'm not even sure that is feasible. I struggled to bind two Onryu. This Gasha Dakuru seems to be made up of dozens of Onryu-possessed corpses. Attempting to bind this spirit could cost me my life. Levi takes a deep breath and releases his barrier spell. The Gasha Dakuru claws closer and the mage stuns it back with a quick palm-released flash of light energy. Lumiere la banniere! The unburied mass recoils only briefly and moves towards the living prey once more. Relior spirituel pleine puissance chanes de la pegre. Levi's entire body becomes a glowing white light, acting as a catalyst for his magic. Phantom chains erupt from the ground all around the Gasha Dakuru, ensnaring many of its arms. The creature struggles, causing Levi's nose to bleed. Chanes, magiques de sang. Levi's blood flows through the chains, turning them a brightly glowing red. The chains tighten, pulling the undead monstrosity closer to the ground. The Gasha Dakuru attempts to dig into the ground with its free hands, but Levi ensnares them with more chains. The mage drops to a knee, breathing heavily. Blood begins to run from his ears and eyes. It looks like binding the spirit may be the last thing I ever do. I'm sorry, Zelina. There are so many things that I never got to tell you, my dearest daughter. I pray that Aisheth will be able to look after you properly in my absence. Levi's eyes sparkle with final resolve. This shall be the final life taken in this cursed city. Magie de conversion divai, lien dame complete. Using his life to fuel the spell, the necromancer is finally able to overpower the undead spirit's strength and subdue it to his dying will. The Gasha Dakuru burns away into a faded scroll that Levi sends away with a wave of his hand. The mage's eyes glaze over, and his skin loses all color.
You really were something special,
the Aratsu muses.
Such a powerful mage. What a shame it is to see your life extinguished. I rather would have enjoyed seeing your next adventure.
Gideon Levi, descendant of the infamous rogue magician Eliphas Levi, collapses to the ground completely still. No malice emanates from the mage's body, and the Araksu leave it alone out of respect. One of the most powerful mages of the mortal realm and skillful necromancers of all time has died. U.S. Capitol Building, Washington, D.C., September 28, 1998. Special Agent Glenn Rice stands before the U.S. Senate during their hearings on the destruction of Totikahatchee. A special session was called by the president to investigate the unprecedented attack and determine its true perpetrator. The media has taken survivor accounts of the two Sicarii battling across the city and destroying buildings like two tiny kaiju and sensationalized them. Rumors of the existence of demons and aliens round out most stories, as few are able to explain the supernatural nature of the Sicarii's abilities. Senator Rod Thine of Maryland adjusts his glasses as he begins to read one of the eyewitness accounts. And then they shot fireballs from their hands. The female summoned a tornado and flew hundreds of feet into the air. The male attacker created a massive black dragon out of the fire. He sets the paper down and looks up. Normally, I would immediately dismiss this story as fanciful tale of someone with an overactive imagination. He takes a deep breath. But it is not only this account. Every eyewitness testimony is the same. We are finding old records within our own classified documents of similar events happening throughout history. A history that has been purposely scrubbed from public knowledge. How can we explain this? Mass hysteria, shared delusion? Or did our predecessors have knowledge of supernatural beings and hide them from us? I am at a loss as to what to believe. I assume I was selected to be here due to my involvement in the case of Jake Stewart, Rice says. In Rockland, similar accounts of magical qualities to Mr. Stewart's powers were given by the eyewitnesses. As we further investigated, Stewart was tracked to the city of Clavemont. The city that completely disappeared overnight, Senator Thine says. Rice nods. After Rockland and Clavemont, we were able to track Stewart to Clear Springs, Florida, home of his maternal grandparents, Gerald and Lydia Williams. In an attempt to apprehend the suspect, Stewart was shot multiple times. It was verified the boy was not wearing any protective body armor, yet not only did he survive, Stewart was actively able to heal his wounds enough to prevent himself from bleeding to death. He stopped the bleeding. His uncle was ex-military, correct? Perhaps he showed him field dressing techniques, Thine says. Rice shakes his head. He did not dress the wounds. He closed many of them completely. It was as if the gunshots never existed. Doing this must have weakened Stewart considerably, as we were able to take him into custody without further struggle. During questioning, we were attacked by a being that I can only describe as an angel. An angel? A senator speaks up in disbelief. Thine bangs his gavel on the desk for order. Explain. It was over 7 feet tall with pale skin and white blonde hair. It did not have any physical wings per se, but a visible aura that seemed like wings extending from the creature's back. The angel was able to move objects without touching them and teleport in and out of a secured room. It took Stewart and disappeared. After that, Stewart was next spotted in Totikahatchee. Now about this Inyana, eyewitnesses describe a woman fitting the description of Jake Stewart's missing mother, Anne. Can you explain the alias? Back in Rockland, Stewart's cousin Brooke brutally murdered her daughter and husband before being shot and killed by IMPD detectives. Brooke Tyndall was surrounding herself with guards, all identified as the missing passengers of Flight 1115. Once Tyndall was killed, all of the surviving passengers of Flight 1115 had no recollection of what had occurred after boarding the airplane. After this, 2 classmates of Jake Stewart, along with several firefighters, were killed. Those who were not killed were later found in the wreckage of Flight 1115 in the swamps between Clear Springs and Totikahatchee, Florida. The passengers had been offloaded in Rockland, Indiana, yet the plane was found hundreds of miles south in Florida. That does not explain Ann Stewart being sighted in Totikahatchee. Are you saying she was on board Flight 1115 when it crashed? Rice nods. I believe so. Through my investigation, I was able to form this hypothesis. A creature called a Sakari was possessing Brooke Tyndall, causing her to commit her atrocities. When Tyndall was killed by IMPD, the spirit passed on to Ann Stewart. A similar creature called Yamura is in possession of Jake Stewart. I know all of this sounds crazy, but I was able to dig up a considerable amount of lore on these Sakari creatures. The names of both Yamura and Inyana come up in that lore quite frequently. In preparation of this hearing, a committee was appointed to independently research your findings and verify their authenticity. I will defer to Senator James Brush of Utah. Senator? Fine says.
Thank you, sir,
Senator Brush says, standing up.
In researching the Sakari, we were able to come up with many ancient stories dating back thousands of years. Both this Yamura and Inyana featured prominently in these stories. They were feared siblings and incredibly powerful and ruthless.
In your opinion, could the Sakari actually exist? Thine asks.
We would need more evidence. While investigating the Sakari, we came across thousands of reports of similarly unknown creatures.
What is the recommendation of your committee? Thine asks.
That a new federal agency be created to further investigate the Sakari and the validity of the unexplained supernatural threats reported over the years.
And who would oversee this new agency? Thine asks.
This committee, sir, with Special Agent Rice acting on our behalf as its first director,
Brush says. Rice is shocked by this revelation. Me? You want me to be in charge of a new agency?
You have the most experience in dealing with the Sakari. It would take far too long to bring another person of your skill up to speed. If the Sakari is still alive, time is of the essence. We cannot allow another Clavemont or Totikahatchee event to occur.
Brighton, Florida, November 30th, 1998. Just a little over 5 months ago, I was your average Midwest American teenager. I went to school, hung out with my friends, played lots of video games, and thought about girls I was too scared to ask out on dates. That was before the name Yamura had any meaning to me. The illusion of a normal life came crashing down, and I was swept in a whirlwind of death and despair. Followers of an ancient, inhuman creature named Yamura used black magic to force his spirit into my body. Possessed by the revived Yamura, I killed people, innocent people. I attacked family and friends. Every bridge that could be burned, I scorched. All hope seemed lost, yet somehow I survived. I fought my way back into control of my body, and with the help of my friends, I subdued Yamura. Unable to rid myself of Yamura's spirit, we had to learn to work together. Half-Sakari assassins, alien parasites, and Yamura's own sister Inyana provided a never-ending scale of challenges. I was pursued by the police and FBI, wanted for multiple murders. More lives were lost, but at the end of the day, I again was still standing. The entire city of Totikahatchee, Florida paid the ultimate price for my victory over Inyana. So did my mother. It's been over 2 months since Jake's battle against the Sakari Queen Inyana. The cleanup of Totikahatchee is still ongoing. The death toll ticks upwards each day. The weight of guilt upon Jake's soul increases exponentially with every victim added to the Totikahatchee memorial. In order to stop Inyana, Jake's mother Anne sacrificed her own life. Once again, Jake was left standing as the dust settled. He alone had to pick up the pieces and move forward. A special government task force was assembled to combat the newly public threat of non-human entities. All around the world, throughout history, stories abound of deadly creatures and monstrous beings. The Paranormal Investigation Agency examines these reports and works to eliminate the danger the NHEs pose. Headed by the lead FBI investigator into the murders purported to be carried out by Jake Stewart, the PIA's outlook and understanding of the shadowy world beneath the one we see every day is greatly expanded. No longer is Jake considered the biggest threat to public safety. In this period of respite, Jake has tried to build for himself a sense of normalcy. Working as a stockhand at a grocery store in Brighton, Florida, the teen attempts to put his troubled past behind him. The job isn't too difficult, but the pay isn't great either. Jake scrounges to survive each week, constantly tempted by the words of his demonic co-pilot, ringing in his mind. With all strength, we should not be living impoverished, Ymir growls. I'm not going to hurt people just to get more comfortable. Causing pain isn't something I look forward to. Don't you think we've already done enough of that? You cannot continue holding yourself responsible for the destruction caused by Inyana. If we had not intervened, much more would have been ruined beyond a single city. We failed. It's as simple as that. If we'd been stronger, we'd have been able to defeat Inyana before things got so bad. Complaining about weakness will not make us gain strength. If you desire for us to become stronger, we must train for it. We only survived my sister through luck. Inyana outclassed us in every way. We should have been killed. And she is dead instead of us. What exactly is your point? We cannot count on luck in every battle. Had your mother not stopped my sister, victory would have been unattainable. But she did, and Inyana is gone forever. What exactly is the point of us training? There are still parasite-enhanced warriors out there that equaled us at full strength, such as Rapture. Ymir sighs, annoyed that he must explain everything to his host. Many of the other parasite warriors also possessed abilities that made them far deadlier than their base power would suggest. Used properly, even weaker opponents with superior abilities could spell our doom. You worry too much. This is the most peace I've had since being stuck with you. Stuck with me? Ymir growls. If anyone has the short end of this arrangement, it is I. I am stuck with a vessel that has zero motivation and is fully complacent with his weakness. We cannot be idle. Now in peace, it is more important than ever to increase our training and raise our abilities and strength to a higher plateau. Whatever comes next, just use that black dragon thing on him. Seemed to work pretty well. Black dragon thing? Are you referring to the sacred technique passed down through my familial line? I cannot think that even you would disrespect the Basaia Voven in such a way. My father used that technique for centuries to remain king in an unstable world. Yeah, that one. It even had Inyana sweating for a minute. Since anyone we face next will be weaker than her, the Black Dragon will be more like an instant kill. You insufferable little whelp, Ymir growls. The Basaia Voven requires immense concentration and focus to execute, and has a tremendous drain on my stamina. We cannot rely solely upon it. You must commit to our improvement. I cannot do this alone, not unless you wish to relinquish full control to me. No, Jake grumbles. I won't be doing that. We may still be allies right now, but I don't trust you any more than I did the day you attacked my family and tried to lock me away in that book for all eternity. If I must be your motivation to grow more powerful, so be it. Grow stronger to oppose me. I know there are worse things out there than you. I just don't want my life to be completely focused on that kind of negativity. I want something more for my life. I want to have some kind of real future. Don't you ever wish that you had been able to have that kind of chance with Eliel? No more wars or fighting, just you and her and all your ugly little demon spawn? Ymir scoffs, ignoring Jake's taunt. No one will have a future if we do not stay on top of our training. Another warrior near Inyana's level would be at the end of us. You really are selling us short. I think we've done pretty well considering our circumstances. Foolish, arrogant child! You have no idea how astronomically lucky we were to survive my sister. You could have played that battle out in 1,000 different ways, and they would all have ended in our deaths. Inyana was leagues above us in power, ability, and intelligence. And yet, who's alive and who is rotting in hell? Jake growls, surprising even Ymir with coldness of his voice. That was all due to your mother. It was she who outsmarted Inyana, not us. That victory belongs to her alone. My mom did what she had to do to protect the ones she loved. Do you think I won't be able to do the same if needed? I do not want things to come to that end. I prefer victory without having to sacrifice one's life to achieve it. We will only be able to reach that through proper training and discipline. Jeez, Jake groans. You're a harsher taskmaster than Radnovich, and he kept a magician on hand to heal me if I was too injured to continue training. To him you owe your continued existence. Do not ever forget that. Had your body and mind not been pushed past their limits every moment during that time, you would never have been able to resist me in the first place. Jake? A girl's voice returns Jake's attention outward. What? The teen blinks several times, disoriented for a moment. He looks around to realize he has a backlog of groceries to bag up.
Damn kids and their pot!
An elderly woman at the register grumbles, barely audible. Jake is extra careful with the woman's egg carton, only breaking 4 of them with well-placed pressure touches. Daydreaming again? The girl asks with a smile. Around the same age as Jake, Claire Delgado dropped out of school around the time that her parents died and fell under the care of her older brother by nearly 10 years, Craig. A lot of sadness hides beneath the girl's bright personality and doe-like brown eyes. Yeah, sorry, Jake says, finishing bagging the groceries of the judgmental old woman. He starts bagging the multiple bags of beef jerky that a man in hunting gear places on the conveyor. I was someplace else for a minute. I wouldn't mind that, Claire laughs. Unfortunately, every time I open my eyes, I'm still here. Caught up with their customers for a few, the teens take a short break outside. Jake still seems distant and his mind wandering. Since he's started working with her, Claire has never gotten Jake to be too talkative, but he's usually much more friendly. Is everything all right? Claire asks. She wonders what could be so important that he cannot stop thinking about it. You're acting extra weird today. Extra? Jake asks. What are you implying? Claire shrugs, smiling. You do kind of mutter to yourself sometimes. Plus, you're very mysterious. I don't know anything about you. Well, I guess going from weird to mysterious is an upgrade. Jake smiles. Oh no, you're still weird. You're just weird and mysterious. Claire laughs. Jake cannot help feel comforted by the sound. Laughter is a rare commodity in his life anymore. He already has trouble remembering what the sounds of his parents' laughter was like. After a short time, he feels like he betrays them by forgetting things so easily. You meet a lot of weird people around here? Jake asks, smiling. This is Florida, Claire laughs. Everyone here is at least a little off. Yeah, the Sunshine State isn't exactly what I expected. I'm sure it beats California, Claire shrugs. What's so bad about Cali? Hollywood and the heart of the world's technological innovation are in Cali. Scientologists, Claire says, with disgust. Jake grimaces. Good point, but hear me out. The best rappers come from the West Coast. You don't strike me as a rap fan, Claire laughs. What? You don't think I have the proper appreciation of the art of spitting some bars? Okay, maybe California isn't all bad. It probably just depends on where you go. I suspect there are good and bad places in every state. I wouldn't know. I've never been out of this one. So why are you stuck here? Go out and see the country. It can't be this great paying job that's keeping you here. Claire laughs. In a way it is. This great paying job puts food on the table. That's about all. I wouldn't even get out of town on the amount of money in my pockets. Well, do you have any other skills other than running a cash register? There are bound to be much better jobs out there. Not for teenagers without a high school diploma. No employer would ever take a chance on someone like me. Mr. Robera did. Yeah, well, he's weirder than you. Jake laughs. Yeah, you're probably right about that. This place isn't so bad, Claire admits. Maybe you'll learn to like it here. Jake's tone becomes solemn as he reflects on his past and the trouble that follows him everywhere he goes. Maybe I will, he whispers. I don't know. Not sure how long I'll really be staying. You move around a lot, don't you? Claire asks. She can tell that Jake is hiding many secrets. Jake nods. Not really by choice. Bad things happen everywhere I go. I'm like a black cloud. You are saying too much, Ymir growls. She does not need to know any more. The more this girl learns about us, the more danger she will be in. You're kind of emo, aren't you? Claire asks, smiling. Jake is surprised by her reaction. Instead of being scared, she makes a joke about his depression. This girl is really one of a kind. I wouldn't go that far. Claire holds the back of her hand to her forehead and begins to speak dramatically. Oh, woe is me. I'm a tortured soul. I've done so many terrible things. Oh, how will I ever repent? She pokes Jake in the chest with her index finger. You can stop with the act. You sound like one of those cheesy vampire movie characters. What? Jake is stunned. Cheesy vampire? Mysterious, good-looking guy rolls into town, is all dark and brooding. He's super emo and whines about needing to seek redemption and all that junk. In the end, all he's trying to do is seduce the lead actress. What are you doing after work? Jake asks with a bad Transylvanian accent. What was that? Claire asks, laughing. Jake clears his throat and begins speaking normally. I said, what are you doing after work? Claire's eyebrows raise with interest. Nothing planned. I don't really have much of a social life. I come here to work and I go home. Pretty boring, really. Boring's good, Jake says. I could go for more boring in my life. He smiles uncomfortably. Behind the teen's forced smile is all the painful memories, held back like a floodgate. The hospital, Brighton, Florida. The hospital looks and operates like any other medical facility to an outsider, consisting of 9 floors and employing over 500 nursing and medical staff. One would never be able to tell that the medical director and owner of the building is actually a wanted bioterrorist, known the world over by the authorities as the Doctor. The Doctor is responsible for the creation of nearly every enhanced mercenary on the planet, and much of his wealth and resources come from the contracting out of these mercenaries. By combining the DNA and organs of various creatures and monsters, the Doctor has been able to create warriors with special gifts and abilities that put them far beyond the capabilities of average humans. Unknown to the public at large, nearly every employee of the hospital has been enhanced by the Doctor. Acting as doctors and nurses during their normal shifts, any one of them can be called upon to act as an enhanced mercenary if needed. When activated, the medical staff are referred to by the Doctor as his elite whitecoats. Mercenaries enhanced by Sakari DNA are called the Sakati. The Sakati are among the Doctor's most popular package deals by those seeking to hire enhanced assassins and soldiers. To keep his activities hidden, the hospital is split into 3 facilities across the city of Brighton. The hospital itself is the largest and most utilized, but the branch practices house several floors dedicated to furthering the Doctor's enhancement interests. A van pulls into the delivery zone and several whitecoats emerge, carrying temperature-controlled coolers to the refrigeration unit on the 7th floor. The Doctor excitedly greets the whitecoats, having been expecting this delivery for weeks. Opening one of the packages, the Doctor withdraws a clawed arm, covered in grayish-tan scales. Finally, the Doctor whispers. What is that? Asks Candy Stripe with a look of disgust. The woman is the Doctor's personal bodyguard and a Sakati herself. In addition to Sakari DNA enhancements, she is also a highly skilled assassin, knowing many forms of hand-to-hand and weapon combat. This, my dear, is the arm of Zmu, a magnificent dragonic creature native to the deadly volcanic regions of the Central African jungles. It's taken me years to acquire one. I have sent 3 separate expeditions to that area, and this is the first to return to me any kind of useful material. I'd begin to think that maybe the Zamu were nothing more than a mythical construct of the local cultures. What can you use dragon parts for? The doctor continues grinning, still overjoyed with his prize. What can't I do with this? The Zamu are almost entirely resistant to fire, and their scales reflect most damage that can be encountered against non-enhanced individuals. It's said that neither blade nor bullet can pierce the hide of a Zamu. What are in the other boxes? Candy Stripe asks. The doctor opens the next package. He's equally interested in finding out what other treats are in store for him today. Inside the next box are 2 small insect-like wings wrapped in plastic and set on dry ice. Interesting, the doctor whispers. These appear to be the remains of a fey creature. A fey? You mean like a fairy? Candy Stripe struggle to accept the doctor believes in dragons, but this is going too far. The doctor nods. Somewhat. The fey are magical creatures that are nearly impossible to find. I honestly was not sure that they even existed. Most of the lore on the fey seems too fanciful exaggerated to be believed. It will be most interesting to discover what abilities fey DNA will actually bestow. Candy Stripe is annoyed by the doctor's interest in supernatural creatures. To her, the enhancements that the doctor has already created up to this point are already near perfection. She does not view his newer creations and experiments as any better than her generation of enhancements. She's afraid that messing around with something that already works may yield negative results. I don't see how that little bug can make anyone stronger, Candy Stripe says, looking down at the almost transparent wings. Light catches the remains in a certain way, and for an instant they appear like a rainbow of colors. The bug already in our enhanced warriors' blood is visible to the naked eye, yet look how powerful they have become, the doctor says. Do not judge something by its size or appearance. Candy Stripe does not argue. She knows the doctor has a point. He always has a point. The man's supreme intelligence causes the young woman to respect him greatly, and most often defer to his judgment without question. If the doctor thinks it's so, it likely is. I take it that you are not interested in receiving any of these new enhancements, the doctor observes. Candy Stripe grinds her teeth together in agitation. I'll pass. I can do just fine with what I've got. The doctor holds his hands up. No one is trying to force you. Hopefully you will see the effects of these enhancements and choose to become even stronger. I only offer you these gifts because I want you to be able to constantly better yourself. Not that I think that you're already lacking in any way. I create only perfection. I can get stronger on my own. I don't need any more enhancements. Well, I certainly am interested in these parts. I will test them on other staff first, of course, but if the results are satisfactory, I just might take on these enhancements myself. Being fire-resistant would be very useful. The abilities of the GX parasite respond to your needs and desires, Candy Stripe says. If you want to be fire-resistant that badly, I'm sure the parasite would respond. I prefer making my own decisions, not being controlled by an alien parasite. The doctor's phone chimes, receiving an electronic message from Conco. He transfers the message over to a datapad, so that he can decipher the information. How unfortunate, the doctor whispers to himself as he stares at the electronic datapad. Such high losses. What is it? Candy Stripe asks. Out of the 59 units we enhanced for Conco, only 17 have had positive vitals that can be read. Somehow, 42 of them have been taken offline. Who could be responsible for that? She asks. She recalls the fearsome strength of Yamura, as he was easily able to overpower her, and shudders. Do you think it was Yamura? I do not think so, the doctor says. I've kept him under close observation. A variable that dangerous is not something that I would ever leave unchecked. It surely wasn't the rude boy, was it? She asks with apprehension. He couldn't possibly have taken out mercenaries with their skill levels. Don't forget that he was able to defeat the crew and Rapture. With Yamura's assistance, the doctor nods. Young Brian has different allies now. Khan made himself many enemies, and his methods of research are less than conducive for breeding respect or loyalty. Abducting people from their homes to experiment on will do that. The doctor again nods. What we gift onto our patients is a blessing, not something to be forced upon innocent people like some sexual deviant in an alleyway. Powers like those bestowed by the GX parasite are not to be wasted on civilians with no prior combat training. The full potential of our patients is only brought out in those select individuals who desire to become better versions of themselves. He again looks at his datapad, and yet inexplicably, my trained mercenaries and volunteer soldiers were all but wiped out by a science teacher, a glorified fitness trainer, and a few teenagers with zero combat experience. Please explain to me how this is even possible. It seems like some individuals have a potential far exceeding that of even professional warriors. The doctor scoffs. There must be a definitive answer, hiding beyond the abstract concept of personal potential. Perhaps these youths are more clever than I previously thought, and are outsmarting my patients. I think with our next group of patients, we will need not just brawn, but also brains. A good balance of power and intelligence may give us the edge we lack. It's insulting to my genius to see my creations fail so completely. You can't blame yourself, Candy Stripe says, trying to comfort him. Those men were weak and could not live up to your expectations. The doctor glares at his assistant for a moment with a look of disappointment. You do not understand how these things work, my dear. Stick to stabbing people and being pretty. Candy Stripe fumes, but keeps quiet. She doesn't dare disrespect the doctor by talking back to him. For all the advantages being attractive has given her, there have been equally frustrating downsides as well. No one thinks that you can be good-looking and intelligent, so one of the two labels is chosen by others to define you. Speak with our clients and have them send you the resumes of only the candidates that best fit our new criteria, the doctor says. Candy Stripe nods. Yes, sir. Perhaps we will engineer a soldier that can rival even the almighty Rapture, or the devious Dr. Rude. Devious? You don't trust the one called coercion? Her power is to control others and implant false directives into their minds. If a less trustworthy person exists, I would be surprised. Could she be working with her son to help tear down Conco so that she can take it over? Though I would put nothing past her, that woman has no love at all in her heart. Whether that boy is her son or not really means nothing to her. I heard that she chose to kill her husband for merely disagreeing with her methods. That's cold, Candy Stripe whispers. Unlike her, I highly value loyalty and think that I return that trust equally. Always, Candy Stripe says quickly. The time will eventually come when our alliance with Conco must come to an end. We must ensure that before then we have the most powerful soldiers on our side, and only contract to Con the second best. I will make sure to recruit for us only the best, sir. The doctor taps on the picture of one of the remaining operatives on his datapad. The operatives that Con still has from us are all roughly the same strength as that of our squad captains. If the Rude Boy and his friends change their focus to attack us before pressing against Con, we will need warriors stronger than the squad captains heading our defenses. It will be taken care of, sir, Candy Stripe says. I have some operatives in mind who should impress you greatly. What of those treated with the blood of Yamura? Have those experiments yielded any results? Candy Stripe takes a deep breath and looks down at the floor. So far, it seems that Yamura's blood does absolutely nothing to enhance another's strength. Whatever boost occurs, switching from his human host to Yamura cannot be duplicated at this time. That is a letdown. A soldier enhanced not as a Sakati, but as a full Sakari would be incredible. I venture to say that combination would surpass even a GX parasitic mutation. I don't particularly want to collect any more tissue samples from Yamura, Candy Stripe says, cringing with memories of her severe pain and near crippling defeat. The doctor laughs. No, I don't suspect you would. We will have our opportunity. It is not best to force these things and provoke confrontations. We will continue to thrive because we know how this game operates better than most. Candy Stripe leaves the doctor in order to complete her assigned duties. Through her time as an assassin, the young woman forged many relationships in different circles, including businessmen, government officials, and even crime syndicates. All of these men crave power, and to gain more, enemies had to be eliminated. Now she brokers deals with her old clients in the hospital in order to contract out hybridized Sakati assassins. Sergei, she says as the man on the other end of the phone picks up. It's Kachina. I have a different cat now. You left my service years ago. I did, and I'm not looking for any work. On the contrary, I have an offer for you and your new cat. Oh, what would that offer be? I work for a man who can enhance anyone far beyond their normal human capabilities. The competitive edge we can give you will put you above all of your enemies. She pauses, and I know firsthand that you have many of those. Continue, Sergei Gorbov says. I'm listening. Damn it! These assassins are relentless, Silva says, running into an open barn and hiding behind several bales of hay. Dr. Victor Silva was once one of the world's leading minds and a pioneer in the field of virology. Taking a position with Antonio Khan's newly created Project VR, Silva was first introduced to the alien parasite, dubbed Geonoshide Xavier, aka the GX parasite. When Khan's plans for GX fell apart, Silva stole a sample of the parasite and tried to disappear off the grid. He's not been entirely successful in that regard. He ran in here! A Sakati assassin shouts, stepping into the barn. Enhanced with Sakari blood, Sakati assassins were the absolute top of the mercenary game before GX-enhanced beings like Rapture came into being. Two more assassins enter the barn and begin to search for the thief. A farmer approaches, raising his double-barrel shotgun in alarm. I don't care who you are! Raise your hands right now! The farmer says. An assassin turns quickly, bringing up his rifle. The farmer manages to squeeze off a round of buckshot before taking a bullet through his right eye. Using the distraction, Silva slips out of the back of the barn and runs for the farmhouse. 3 Sakati assassins rush the building, covering the exits. We know you're in there, one of the Sakati says. You've only trapped yourself with no possible escape. We can wait you out as long as we have to. Silva fumbles through kitchen cabinets, tossing dozens of items aside in frustration. Useless! Silva mumbles, frantically searching for something helpful. The Sakati leader motions towards one of his comrades at the nearby door. Push inside. Try to press him to one of the other exits. Hearing the side door opening, Silva quickly grabs a hold of bottles of bleach and ammonia and dumps the kitchen waste bucket on the floor. The Sakati slowly creeps towards him. Silva drags the trash can to the doorway nearest the assassin and mixes together the 2 deadly chemicals. Silva runs out of the kitchen just as the Sakati walks right into a toxic cloud of chlorine gas. The assassin coughs violently, retreating back out of the house. What are you doing? The leader asks, irritated. The other assassin holds a finger up, still coughing. He set up some kind of trap. Some kind of toxic gas. Damn it, the leader curses. Oh, he's pushing towards your exit, he says into the radio. The third assassin acknowledges before raising his rifle and slowly opening the door. As soon as the door opens, the Sakati is greeted with a face full of drain cleaner. The assassin screams in agony, clawing at his burning eyes. Escaping the house, Silva runs over to the farmer's abandoned truck and quickly jumps into the driver's seat. Lucking out, he finds the man's keys still inside the truck. He's getting away! An assassin shouts, running from the barn and firing several times at Silva as the truck peels out quickly. Damn it. The boss is going to be pissed we let him get away again. Hold off on the report, another Sakati says. We'll catch up with him before too long. We'll call the captain after we put Silva down for good. I don't care the boss wants him brought in alive. I'm killing that motherfucker. For a nerd, that dude is quite hard to catch. He's resourceful and has a strong will to survive. Both are formidable qualities in an opponent. We will need to push ourselves to outmaneuver him